Ladies and gentlemen, George Gossage calling in from snowbound Chicago, and change your water, change your life. And obviously you know that you've been invited to learn about some sort of water technology, and change your water, change your life. That's our company tagline, and that's exactly what we're going to profess to you is if you could change the water that you're made 75% of, you're going to start to change the way that you feel. And there is a ton of excitement around this amazing technology that's going on, and we're going to get into that here in just a minute. So if you were invited here to learn about the health aspects of this technology and this water, you're definitely here at the right place, right time. And if you're also not quite happy with where you are from a financial disposition, or if you're a true entrepreneur and can recognize one of those opportunities that comes along every 25, 30 years or so, I think you're going to be very, very glad that you decided to join us. So regardless of which door you came through, if it was from the health side or the economic side, I think that you're going to be very, very glad that you did, and we're going to talk about that. What you're looking at on your screen right now is a picture of our flagship product, and this is the technology that we're going to be talking about. And if you could imagine, this is a technology that actually has the ability to take ordinary tap water, and at the touch of a button, depending upon which color button you happen to depress, we've got the ability to make 5 different grades of water. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, why in the world would I need 5 kinds of water? Water is water. Well, that's at least what I thought 3.5 years ago. I knew that water was important, but I had no idea that such a technology existed. And you see, each of these waters has multitudes of uses and applications, and we're going to touch on some of those. But without question, the most important water is that we're going to be talking about tonight is the water that you're going to actually drink, that the Japanese refer to as Kangen water. Now, since we're talking about water, here's the sad reality, you guys. In spite of the fact that we all understand next to air, water is number 2 on the list of priorities, but what we're finding out is for the most part, people have no idea in terms of how crucial and critical water is to your overall survival. And the sad reality is by and large, as a society, we are severely, and I mean severely, dehydrated. And just like Dr. Bat Mangalish talks about in his book, because of this hydration, in his opinion, and now more and more healthcare practitioners are also talking about this, dehydration is one of the main causes why there's such an explosion in cancer, not just in our country, but all around the world. And we're going to be talking about that here in just a little while. And the sad reality is, you guys, as consumers, we are being had. And what I mean by that is, you see, these food manufacturers and these beverage, producers out there, they're going to lead you to think that things like sodas and juices and teas and coffees and sports drinks and energy drinks are all contributing to hydration. But the sad reality is you're going to actually do the opposite of hydrating your body, because all of those beverages that I just mentioned, actually, rather than hydrating us, they're actually dehydrating us. As crazy as that sounds, that's the actual truth of what's going on. As a matter of fact, as I take you through the technology, after we're done here, I'm going to point you to a website where you're going to be able to see this technology in action. And since we're talking about this technology and Kangen water, Dr. Hiromi Shinya is the book that you're actually seeing. This is a picture of his runaway international bestseller. And if you're wondering, well, who Dr. Shinya is, this is a guy that really needs no introduction. He's one of the most famous, world-renowned doctors out there. He pioneered a procedure years ago called the colonoscopy procedure. And in his runaway bestseller, and look at the title of the book, you guys, this is something you all should be reading, The Diet of the Future That Will Prevent Heart Disease, Cure Cancer, Stop Type 2 Diabetes. Now, he's a doctor. He can make those statements. And if you think about it, cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, those are the 3 leading killers in our country. But inside of this book, he actually talks about Kangen water. That's the water that you're here to learn about as being the very best drinking water in the world because of its incomparable ability to hydrate us, to detoxify us, as well as the antioxidant properties associated with this water. And by the way, this demo that I'll be pointing you to afterwards, where you can see this technology in action, we're going to be able to show you these 3 properties right before your very own eyes and then some. And I think you all can appreciate that old saying, talk is cheap. We're going to actually get to quantify for you right before your very own eyes all of the properties that I'm going to be taking you through tonight and then some. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Now, Kangen is a Japanese word that means return to origin, and you might just be hearing about this water for the very first time yourself, but keep in mind, you guys, this water is not on trial. This is not an experiment that we're looking to conduct on you. The water actually has got a huge history that dates back to the mid-'60s, where it was approved for its medicinal properties by the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, which is essentially the equivalent of the FDA in the United States. Okay? Now, you're learning about the residential version of this technology. What you also need to understand is we as a company, we have built large-scale commercial applications for literally hundreds of hospitals and medical centers all throughout Japan, and that is just a small sampling of some of those institutions that you're looking at on your screen. Now, again, this is not an experiment. We've won all sorts of awards and received a tremendous amount of recognition and accolades in the marketplace. That's just a small sampling of some of those awards and recognition. And I want to draw your attention in particular to the fourth award at the top of your screen. This is an award by the Japanese Association of Preventative Medicine for Adult Diseases. As a matter of fact, this is their endorsement. And as you see on your screen, this is an organization comprised of over 6,500 doctors whose sole focus is on prevention. You see, over in Japan, there's a very different mindset when it comes to healthcare in comparison to, say, here, what's going on in our country. And this is the only technology of this kind that this organization has ever endorsed. And that is a huge, huge endorsement. You guys, it's probably the biggest endorsement than any wellness-related product in Japan can ever hope to get. So as you're going to be doing your homework and doing your due diligence, as I was 3.5 years ago, you're going to learn that we are not the only manufacturers of this type of technology. If you do your homework, which we highly encourage you to do, you'll realize that we do, though, make the Rolls Royce in the industry. And again, this right here, this endorsement is as good as it gets when it comes to any wellness-related, endorsements out there. And over in Japan, when we're looking at, residential versions of this technology, over in Japan, over 400,000 households have already invested and own this residential version of this technology that you're here to learn about. And when we're talking about Japan, when it comes to wellness, when it comes to longevity, they've got that piece of the puzzle figured out more so than any other country in the world. As you see on your screen, that they are number one, and that's according to the United Nations and the World Health Organization. And then, I know the print's a bit small on your screen, but I'll just, tell you this. There are 35 countries listed on the screen, and like myself, I would still venture to say that most of you that are dialed into tonight's webinar are calling in from the good old U.S. of A., in my mind, still the greatest country in the world. Yet I found it, to me, very, very disturbing in that there are 35 countries listed there, you guys, and the United States is not even in the top 35, in spite of the fact that we spent $2.2 trillion, that's with the T, $trillion on health care last year. And that's more than most countries' gross domestic product, you guys, just to kind of put it in perspective there. $2.2 trillion last year. We're not even in the top 35, which is one of the reasons you've been invited to learn about this technology, because we feel this technology has the ability to literally change the landscape of healthcare, not just in this country, but all around the world. And when you look at, when you turn on the TV, you open up the newspapers and radio, everyone's talking about this healthcare crisis that's going on in this country, and rightfully so. As a matter of fact, it's the greatest healthcare crisis that we as a country have ever experienced. And right now, in particular, with the baby boomers aging, they're turning 60 every 7 seconds, our current infrastructure is not strong enough to be able to withstand what's getting ready to get dumped on it, you guys. And so as individuals, as families, we've got to do something from a proactive, preventative approach because the current system is not working. And you know what? I think you all can relate to this individual here. Thomas Edison, we know, needs no introduction. He's one of the biggest names in our country's history. But back in the day, he talked about the doctors of the future would give no medicine, but would interest the patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. You see, that's the philosophy over in Japan. That's why they are number one in the world. Now, that's the philosophy that we've got to adopt here in this country because, you know what, that's the only solution. You guys, the answer is in the prevention. It's in taking a proactive approach. Now, part of the reason and one of the main reasons we've got the situation that we've got going on in our country is because the pharmaceutical companies have literally have a stranglehold on our healthcare system. And just like in this book, Our Daily Meds, Melody Peterson talks about the fact that we as a country spend more money on prescription medications than does the rest of the industrialized world combined. And I don't know about you guys, but that to me is an absolutely tragic statement to be making. And again, that's one of the reasons you've been invited on tonight's call. Because at the end of the day, here's the goal. The drug companies would all like to turn us into patients, just like in this book, Selling Sickness, where Ray Moynihan talks about. And as a matter of fact, in this book, they interviewed a guy by the name of Henry Gaston, who used to be the former CEO of Merck Pharmaceuticals, one of the largest drug companies in the world. But in here, they talk about the fact that they would ultimately like to sell to everybody, okay? That's the end goal in mind here for these drug companies, and they're not going to stop, until they get what they want. Think about tonight or tomorrow night when you come home, prime time, pay attention to what's on TV. You're going to see that about 1 out of every 3 commercials prime time is for a drug that you've never heard about that has 14 or 15 side effects that they blow through so quickly you don't even remember the first one. But because of how they position it and how they package it on TV and how they glorify it, we should go ask our doctor if it's right for us. And the sad reality is over time and through repetition, a large percentage of people do just that. They start to ask doctors about drugs that they never heard about 6 months ago if it's right for them. It's called selling sickness, you guys, and it's the most profitable industry in the world by far. Now, that's the bad news, okay? The good news is there's a company by the name of Enagic that formed in 1974 that actually builds this remarkable technology that you're here to learn about. And as you see on your screen, we've actually got points of presence now all over the world. In Japan, this is the water of choice in Japan. It's one of the reasons why they are the longest living people in the world, and this will be the water of choice around the world. It's just a matter of time. So if you're here also to learn about our distribution model, the timing is absolutely perfect. And as I take you through this, you'll understand why I'm making that statement. And let me give you some insight to our company, okay? This is one of those unique situations where Enagic actually controls the entire process from A to Z. We're what's known as a vertically integrated company that does their own research and development. We actually build our own equipment, and if you see the picture on the top right side of your screen, one technician builds our machine from start to finish. You see, unlike the competition, that are built in places like Taiwan or Korea or China, they're built on mass assembly lines, you guys. Not the case with our equipment. Our equipment is built in Japan. We all know that Japan is the best place in the world when it comes to manufacture. And ours are not built on an assembly line. Ours are built by one technician from start to finish. The quality control and the output of this water is unlike anything else out there in the marketplace. So we control our entire process and our own destiny, if you will, not being dependent upon anybody out there. This equipment, and keep this in mind, you are not invited here to learn about a glorified water filter. Over in Japan, this equipment, you saw the history, the fact that they've been used in hospitals and medical centers for 40-some-odd years. This equipment in Japan is actually sold, and it's licensed as such, to be sold as medical equipment, okay? Filtering the water is just the first step in the process, you guys. It's what happens to the water once that water has been filtered, where all of these miraculous, testimonies or experiences that you're hearing about are being derived from. And again, that demonstration we'll point you to afterwards. We'll take you through this equipment step by step, and you'll understand, how this differs from a typical water filter. We're proud members of what's called the Direct Sellers Association. That is your governing body of anyone anyone out there in the marketplace. By the way, when you compare us to the competition out there, no other manufacturer company of this kind actually belongs to the DSA, and that's for obvious reasons. And now, having done literally hundreds of millions of dollars in the marketplace, continuing to do hundreds of millions of dollars a year in sales, we as a company, I'm proud of, to inform you, we have absolutely no debt, and that is a huge, huge position to be in, especially in today's tumultuous economic times, if you will. Now, the reason that there's so much buzz around this water is because Kangen, this water, has properties to it that no other water in the world has, okay? What you're seeing are just three, okay? Antioxidants, microclustering, and alkalizing. In just a minute here, I'm going to actually take you through a little bit of insight in terms of, to each of these three properties. But again, the demonstration will quantify these properties for you right before your very own eyes. And by the way, as I talked about earlier, Kangen means return to origin in Japanese, and that's exactly what our goal is. You see, when we land on this planet, when we're first born, we come into this world very well oxygenated, and our body's pH is alkaline by nature. Unfortunately, over time, we go from a well-oxygenated alkaline state to an oxygen-deprived acid environment, and that's where the problems begin, you guys. That's the perfect breeding ground for sickness and disease, and that's something I'm going to talk about here in just a minute or two. But let's talk about the first property for starters. Antioxidants right now are the number one sellers in your health food stores today for obvious reasons. We all understand there's a process going on called free radical damage or oxidation that's going on inside of us. And just like when you split an apple in half, 20, 30 minutes later that apple turns brown because it's been exposed to the elements, that apple literally is oxidizing right before your very own eyes. That same process is going on inside of us. And if you don't slow down oxidation, or what you might know as free radical damage, that's going to create a lot of havoc on your cellular DNA, and it's going to cause you some severe problems down the road. So the question is how do you slow oxidation? You do that with the opposite of oxidation, which is antioxidants. Now, what you're going to discover through this demonstration that we're going to be pointing you to is that this water has got some enormous antioxidant properties associated with it. You see, we've been very blessed, you guys. We've been able to attract literally hundreds, if not thousands, of healthcare practitioners to this concept or to this project, if you will. They're of the opinion that Kangen water could be one of the most potent, perhaps even the most potent antioxidant on the planet. Now, as you're looking at your screen, if you're wondering, well, what does this ORP stand for? If you see the numbers on your left-hand side where there's a negative 400, you'll see that that's where our water actually appears. The fact of the matter is every water that you're putting in your body right now, or every liquid for that matter, other than maybe a very good Japanese green tea, is on the positive side of that scale. And the higher that positive number is, the worse off or the more oxidizing that liquid is to you. And if you'll see that even bottled water, some of the most famous, biggest selling names out there, you're going to find are actually doing not so good things to you. But notice our water is on the negative side of the scale. The higher that negative value, the more antioxidant, anti-aging properties it carries with it. And you notice, again, everything is on the right side that you're currently putting in your body. Now, That's the first property, is antioxidants, right? And what you're seeing now is a picture of our founder, Hironari Oshiro. And by the way, this individual, before this venture, was one of the biggest distributors with the Sony Corporation over in Japan. And we all can appreciate Sony needs no introduction to the world of electronics. They're the dominant player in the marketplace. And what Mr. Oshiro did is when he discovered what this water was all about, what it had to offer to mankind, and what the impact would be on people's livelihoods, he decided to make this his life's mission. And you know what? Myself and the individual that's invited you, we're actually helping him to embark on that campaign and spread the message about this water, because, again, we feel that this water is the missing link to the wellness puzzle. Now, if you were to look at him, I wouldn't venture to say that there's no one looking at that picture right now that would give him a day over 45, 50 at the absolute most. And the reality is both of those individuals that you're looking at, they are the exact same age. They're 69 years old. As a matter of fact, I'll be going to Japan here in a couple of weeks to celebrate his birthday, but I think you'd all agree that he has figured out a way to slow down that aging process. As a matter of fact, if you were to see him in real life, he does not look a day over 40. Not only does he look much, much younger than his actual age, but you know what? The energy level and the passion and the enthusiasm that he's got for life is just unlike anything I've ever seen. So to me, when I first saw him, the first thing that stood out to me, this is a guy that actually is a walking billboard to what this water has, to offer. And his USA Business Advisor, unfortunately, in my mind, he even looks a lot older than 69. He's oxidized a little bit ahead of his time. So both of those individuals are the same age, but I think, you know what, Oshiro looks at least 15, 20 years younger, and you now have the ability to enjoy in this water, because that's just the first property. Now, the second property is this microcluster technology. And here's what this means. The water that you're currently putting in your body, be it tap water, could even be the most premium of bottled waters, it's much, much larger in cluster size in comparison to our water. Those waters are hard to consume large amounts of. That's part of the reason why we're so dehydrated. It's just hard to consume large amounts of those waters. Those waters are very bloating to you as well. Our water is very different, and as you can see the comparison there, our water is much, much smaller in cluster size, so consequently this water has the unique ability to permeate right through that cell wall, so you can literally push water into the cell, so you're going to experience a level of hydration that you've never experienced before. But when you can push water into the cell, you guys, you also have the ability to now to push the toxins out of the cell. Therefore, this water has amazing detoxifying effects as well, just like Dr. Hiromi Shinya, the pioneer of the colonoscopy procedure, discovered firsthand. This water, the very first comment that everyone makes about this water is that this water is much, much easier to drink. It goes down, you guys, effortlessly. It's silky soft, very, very smooth, and it's unlike anything you've ever experienced before. And we've got world-class athletes putting this water to the test, you guys. And you know what? Many of them I just can't even mention by name because of contractual obligations, but they are household names in the world of professional sports. Right now, as you are watching the Olympics on TV, one of the U.S. Olympic teams is on this water, and they are literally flipping out on the results that they have gotten since they've been drinking this water. You're looking at a good friend of mine, Wade Lightheart, out of beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. What this guy did in the world of bodybuilding is literally thought to be impossible. I don't have time to get into his story, but he got so excited about the results that he got from this water. And trust me, this is a guy that understands physiology like no one I've ever met in my life. He got so excited on the results, he's actually written a book now about it, and he's now talking all over North America and lecturing for audiences all around North America about the amazing effects of this water and why it is it's something that you have to, if you value your health, make as part of your day-to-day regimen. Okay, so we talked about antioxidants. We talked about microclusters. Now we're going to talk about the third property, is this alkaline property. Earlier we talked about this acid-alkaline relationship, you guys, and this is something that the Japanese are very, very clear on. We talked about when you first are born, you come into this world well oxygenated and alkaline by nature. Unfortunately, because of our lifestyles, what we eat, what we drink, add to that all the toxins that you're exposed to and breathe in and day out. Couple that now with stress, which is probably at an all-time high for most of us. Stress, by the way, is the number one acidifier of your body. You go from well-oxygenated alkaline state to an oxygen-deprived acid environment, and that's the breeding ground for sickness and disease, especially something called cancer, okay? Dr. Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize back in 1931 for his remarkable work with respect to cancer. He showed that cancer goes absolutely crazy in an oxygen-deprived acid environment. He also showed that cancer cannot survive in a well-oxygenated alkaline environment. And guys, he won the highest distinction that you could bestow on any scientist. He won that prize for his work with respect to cancer, okay? I want to also take you back to a book that I'm reading right now. This is a book, if you're in the United States or over in England, this is something that's going to give you some chills from head to toe, because you know what? In here they talk about, in America and in England, if you're a male, the likelihood of you getting cancer is 1 in 2, and if you're a woman, that likelihood is 1 in 3. Now, let me take you back 50 years ago so you can kind of get a point of reference here. Back 50 years ago, that ratio was 1 in 3,000. Today, it's as high as 1 in 2. And I would venture to say that every one of you on tonight's webinar has been impacted either directly or indirectly by this horrible disease, okay? This is a book I'd highly recommend you all read, because it's something that we're going to be having to deal with at some point in time, right? Drawing your attention back to Dr. Bob Mangelich's book, Your Body's Many Cries for Water, that title of the book is a clue in and of itself. But earlier we talked about dehydration. He continues to talk about dehydration being the cause of this low oxygen, high acid environment, which is more suitable for cancer development than it is for normal cell tissues, okay? That, again, is called a clue, you guys. So if you understand that, and if you're wondering, well, why in the world have I not heard about this? The fact of the matter is your doctors, the media, because the pharmaceutical drug companies, they control the media. They don't want you to know about it, but there are literally dozens and dozens of books written about this. We just got to go out there and find them. Even this guy, Kevin Trudeau, in his runaway bestseller, I think he sold 7 or 8 million copies of this book, Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About. But look what he talks about in this book, you guys, is every single person that has cancer, the pH is too acidic. It's on page 77 of that book. So, again, if you know about this, if you know the disease thrives in an oxygen-deprived acid environment, and the reality is unless you're drinking large volumes of this water or unless you are a raw food vegetarian, that likelihood is very, very high that you're oxygen-deprived and acidic. So if you know that in advance, the question you got to ask yourself is, what's my plan? How am I going to take my body back over to that well-oxygenated alkaline state, which is how we landed on this planet? And the simplest, the most powerful way in the world to do it, you guys, is by drinking this water. You got to lose all the sodas and all the sports drinks and all that nonsense that we've been conditioned to drink, and drink good old, pure, clean Kangen water, and your body will thank you for the rest of your life, okay? And you know what? If you're wondering what's driving our growth, keep in mind we are going through explosive growth month after month after month, and what's driving all of that growth is the fact that this water works. When you consider the fact that our bodies are made up of over 70% water, here's our proposition to you. Rather than doing what's on the left side of your screen, simply start to drink this water. Take tap water and convert it into the healthiest substance on the planet, and you can make this water on demand. See, what you need to understand is, you know what, there are places in different parts of the world, places like Lourdes, France, Tlacote, Mexico, where there's literally 10 to 20,000 people coming every single day. They're lining up to get their hands on this miracle spring water. There's a place in Germany. There's a place up in the Himalayas. And what they found is that those waters all had certain properties associated with it, the very same properties that I just took you through. So what the Japanese have done, they basically have perfected a technology that can simulate as close to that type of water from these miracle springs as humanly possible. And the difference now is instead of having to travel all over the world to get it, you can literally make it on demand in your very own kitchen for pennies a day, you guys. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. Some insight to our product and our technology here is, you know what? Unlike the competition that break down typically in less than a year or two, our machines are built to last. As a matter of fact, they will last with very little maintenance on your end, anywhere from 15 to 20 years, and they come with a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty. And here's the reality. Over the past 3.5 years, I've done this presentation for literally tens of thousands of people, and there's not one person that understands what this water technology can do that does not want it. That is the reality. Every single person that sees it wants it, you guys, and for obvious reasons. And if you're wondering, well, how much is this technology? Well, before we go there, I just want you to understand, we actually built 5 different versions of this technology, right? They vary in price from $1,280 all the way up to $6,000 for our commercial equipment, right? And what you're seeing is a picture of our flagship residential version. We call that our SD501. That's what over 95% of the people that invest in our technology are electing to buy. Now, what if I told you that this product could actually be free to you? Okay? How exciting would that be? The fact of the matter is unless you own this technology, it actually costs you money year after year not to have this equipment. Here's the reality. Once you become a customer of ours, by simply filling out a W-9 form, you get to go from being a customer to being a distributor. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, like I was 3.5 years ago, I'm not interested in being a distributor. All I want is I want the unit for myself and for my family, right? But here's what we're finding, you guys. It could be in as little as a day, some of you a week, for some of you it might take all of 30 days, but sooner or later, whether you intended to or not in the beginning, you're going to find yourself telling everybody about it. And by simply filling out a W-9 form, now all of a sudden the tax advantages alone more than offset the entire cost of the machine. What you want to do is get back to the person that invited you, and we can actually show you, if you're an employee, how to actually get an additional $300 to $600 a month of cash coming into your household, okay? That's just one strategy alone that will more than offset the entire cost of your machine. Also, this equipment, because now if you're actually telling people about it, you get to now expense the cost of the machine as a part of doing business. So, again, at the end of the day, it does not matter how much money you make. You know, when that year is done, what's important is how much of that money you get to keep. And you guys, if you think taxes are high right now, they're going to go through the roof here in the not-too-distant future, okay? So, the reality is, again, we would literally have to tape your mouth shut in order for you not to tell everybody about it. The fact is that we know, keep in mind, we've been out there for many, many years, that as soon as your body starts to experience this level of hydration, you're going to find yourself telling everybody about it, and you can literally give it away for free and let the water do what it's designed to do. Well, if you're wondering, well, what's the upfront investment? I know you guys can't give these things away. The upfront investment for our flagship product, it's $3,980. And I'm here to tell you it's the best $4,000 that you will ever spend in your lifetime. But unfortunately, here's the sad reality. Most of us, we go through life taking better care of our cars, of our pets, of everything else than we do ourselves. And it isn't until that health gets lost or when it gets compromised, then we then start to really pay attention, and we start to scramble, and we start to panic in terms of how are we going to regain the health that we've lost. And guys, it does not have to be that way. This right now, in my opinion, is the greatest health insurance policy money can buy. And for those of you that are saying to yourself, well, this is expensive, let me put that into perspective to you. What's expensive, you guys, is cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity. That's expensive, okay? Not just in terms of what's it going to cost you from a physical perspective, but think about what the financial implications are. I don't know if you guys realize this right now, but medical costs are the number one cause of bankruptcy. That is the reality, and nothing is going to change unless we start to change our whole philosophy and mindset when it comes to health care and taking care of ourselves and our family, right? So what we're going to do, we gave you some insight to the technology, right? What we're going to now do is shift gears, and we're going to talk about the economic conditions in this country. We're going to also talk about, what are some of the solutions? I mean, if you're nervous about the economy, rightfully so, because next to the Great Depression of 1929, you guys, these are the most severe economic conditions we have ever gone through. And the sad reality is what we're seeing in the media is only a small fraction in terms of what's going on. But just like Harry Dent talks about, in spite of the fact that, for most people, you know what? They're going to get caught with their pants down. That's just the reality. That's what the masses do, right? But for some people, just like in the Great Depression of 1929, that position themselves on the right side of the equation, there's going to be opportunities of a lifetime. There's going to be bargain basement, options out there. But the reality is, of course, you've got to be liquid and you've got to be flexible in order to take advantage of the enormous opportunities that will be out there, right? And there are awesome opportunities. You just got to know where to look. And we're going to give you some insight to that, right? Now, the reality is all of 2009, we saw hundreds of thousands of people every single month losing their JOBs. And you guys got to understand, long gone are those days where you can literally go to work for someone for 10, 15, 20, 30 years and ride off into the sunset. Those days are gone forever. The only security that we have is the security in ourselves, right? These are just some of the latest statistics, right? And if you're waiting for the job market to rebound, according to the experts out there, that's not going to happen until at least 2014. So that being said, what's your plan? If you do not have a backup plan, you better start thinking about something because, guys, I'm here to tell you, the times are just going to get worse and worse and worse before they get better. And just like the cover of USA Today talked about, governments in crisis, foreclosures are at the highest level in our country's history. And as we just talked about, jobs are disappearing to the tune of hundreds of thousands every single month, okay? And you know what? While it's true that we are in some severe times, the reality is you do not have to participate. Myself, the person that invited you to tonight's webinar, are choosing not to participate. Earlier I talked about the fact that we're going through explosive growth, which we are. And the reason that we're going through explosive growth, in spite of the fact that practically everything else around us is either going backwards or shutting down completely, because we're taking advantage of four major trends, if you will, that are going on right now simultaneously, okay? Wellness, green technology, baby boomers, home-based businesses, right? Let's talk about the wellness arena for starters, right? If you've not read this book, you definitely want to get your hands on it as quickly as possible. In my mind, Paul Zane Pilzer is one of the leading economic trend forecasters in the world. I've been following him since 1990, and his degree of accuracy is absolutely amazing. 5 years ago, he wrote this book. Actually, now it's going on 8 years. He wrote a book called Wellness Revolution. Back when he first wrote that book, you know what? That industry was sitting about $200 billion. 5 years after he wrote that first version, that industry blew past $500 billion, and it's right now set to blow past $1 trillion a year. He talks about the greatest fortunes in the world over the next 10, 15 years will be in the wellness revolution. We've got one of the hottest wellness products that's ever hit the marketplace, and less than 2% of North America has ever heard about it. So we got wellness going on, you guys. Everyone now is also talking about going green, positioning your company to go green. That seems to be the in thing to do. Municipalities more and more are now starting to permanently phase out the purchase of bottled water for obvious reasons, not just for the expense, but think about the environmental implications of these bottles that we've been conditioned to drink. You see, we were led to believe that drinking bottled water was cool. And think about it. You know what? We complain about the fact that gas, when it was around $4 a gallon, do yourself a favor. Take bottled water and extrapolate that per gallon cost, and you're going to start to see it's way more expensive than gasoline, you guys, but we don't complain about it. Not just the cost, but over 40 million of those plastic bottles are ending up in our landfills every single day. In California alone, over 1 billion of them every single year. And you know what? Our company, we've gone green long before it was cool to go green. We won all sorts of environmental awards. Here, the Linus Pauling Award. So we got that going on our side. We're perfectly positioned. So rather than continuing to contribute to the problem, you know what? You can now be part of the solution, right? So we got that going on. Now think about this. This is a fascinating read. Dr. Furlong is probably the foremost expert in the world when it comes to baby boomers. This is the largest, the most powerful demographic of people that have ever landed on this planet, you guys. And any company that's been able to figure out how to position a product or service in front of the next phase where they're migrating to in their lives have gone on to dominate their respective industries. We are on pace to do just that. The baby boomers love us for two reasons. Number one, they see the health implications of this water, and they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. More and more people are looking for options. It all starts with water. Now, the other thing that they're excited about is the business model that we're going to talk about here in just a minute, because these guys have lost close to $4 trillion from the asset side of the equation, and they're looking for, viable ways to fund their way through retirement, and we've got the answer for their health concerns as well as their financial concerns, right? Now, our business model, our company founder calls this human-based marketing. Quite frankly, it's another way of saying word-of-mouth referrals, and our proposition is very simple. If you like our water, and if you tell someone else about it and they decide to invest in their own equipment, we're going to send you a nice fat referral check, no strings attached. What you're going to find is that this business model here is very different than MLM. It has all of the advantages of your networking companies or multi-level marketing companies, yet it doesn't have any of the baggage, okay? So before we talk about that, here's what you need to understand. Typically, to bring a product to market, right, there's something called marketing, advertising, and distribution costs. There's also manufacturing. And with everything now being outsourced to third world countries, very little goes into the actual manufacture, but it's not what it costs, you guys, that's important. What's important is what's the value in exchange for your investment, right? So our company is very different in that we don't incur marketing or advertising or distribution costs like other companies do. So what our company does is they reroute that large section of the pie into a referral-based business model that, in my mind, is going to rewrite the history books when it comes to home-based business. And that's where the opportunity is, okay? Because it's our job to create the awareness and educate the population about this amazing technology. And that's what we've got to do right now. But 3, 4, 5 years from now, that education is not going to be required to the degree that it is right now. But again, that's where the opportunity is. And what we're going to talk about now is how we actually get paid, right? And it's all based on what's called a point system. And from this point on, we're going to be talking about our flagship model, our SD501, because that's, again, what over 95% 95% of the people elect to buy when they're buying our equipment. And whenever that machine is sold, our company pays out 8 points of commissions, and each point is worth $285. So think of that as like 8 slices of a pie, if you will, each slice being worth $285. And so if you're wondering, well, how do I fit into this? Here's what we're going to teach you. Our first objective is to teach you how to recoup that $4,000 investment, right? That's our number one goal with everybody beginning, okay? And we do that very simply by teaching you how to go out to make 3 little sales. And here's what I can tell you. I don't care who's on tonight's call. There's not one of you that's not able to go out and make 3 referral sales with all the tools and the systems and the help that we've got built in store in order to do that. So when we do that, if we were to teach you to go out and sell one to Mary, John, and Jane, here's how that actually would unfold. On your first 2 referrals, Mary and John, you'd earn $285 commission on each of those, or 1 slice. But notice, as soon as Jane bought her machine, you've earned 2 slices of $570, or essentially double what you made on your first 2. So you've gone out and made 3 sales, right? Now we're going to teach Mary, John, and Jane to do the exact same thing. And if you're wondering, well, why our franchise is so successful, is because they've got a duplicatable system that works. So do we. And if you're wondering, by the way, are people actually spending and investing $4,000 in this equipment? Yes, they are, you guys, to the tune of about 4,000 sales every single month for North America alone. So here's where I'm going with this. You went out and made 3 sales. We taught those 3 individuals to do the exact same thing. So 3 that get 3, that's our philosophy, or that's our concept here. 3 that get 3, what have you done? You've, in essence, paid for your machine. 3 that get 3, my machine is free. You made 3 direct sales. The other 9 came indirectly as a result of your work ethic here. And so that's what we've done. We built a team of 12, right? And that, in essence, paid for your machine. But notice now we're going to teach you to do that all over again in this example now with Kathy being your 4th sale. Now, notice something. Kathy here buys her machine. You've made $855, or 3 slices of that pie, right? So now what we're going to do with Kathy, we're going to teach her to do exactly what you did. We're going to teach her to go make 3 sales. We'll teach those 3 individuals to do the same thing. But notice what happens, though, for you, because this is now Kathy is part of your team. Kathy's first 3 sales, you made $855 off of the first 3 sales for Kathy, as well as the next 9 sales under Kathy. So in essence, Kathy is paid for her machine in this example, 3 that got 3, so her machine is free, but off of those same 12 sales, you guys, you put $11,000 of cash in your pocket. And I want you to think about this. That's just at the 3-point level. So what you're looking at here is a business model that can change your financial situation very, very quickly. We've done that in as little as 1 evening, okay? So it can be done by anyone that has the desire and the work ethic to go out there and do it. We'll teach you how to do it. You just got to bring yourself to the table here. So now that's just at 3 levels, right? At 3 points. And from there, it goes higher, because from there, as your productivity increases, you go to 4 points. And then you can go to 5 points. And ultimately, at 6 points, you're talking about $1,710 off of your direct sales as well as indirect sales. And when you start to put the numbers to paper here, you're going to be blown out of your mind, because when you start to crunch numbers at increments of 285 to 570 to 855 to 1140 to 14.25, ultimately $1,710, you're going to quickly realize that you now, unlike MLM, you don't need to build an organization the size of Orlando, Florida to make it worth your while. The reason that less than 1% of people in MLM ever succeed is because, think about it, to make it worthwhile, you've got to build teams of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people. And in today's times, very few people, number one, have the discipline, let alone the skill set in order to do that. We've got hundreds of people on our team that have already hit this level. There's 7 people that are part of my team that have already made a 7-figure income year, you guys, and I can't even begin to tell you how many have made $5,000 to $10,000 a month. I mean, that's probably in the thousands, okay? So that's just a small glimpse in terms of just 2 of our streams of income here. And the reality is there's other streams of income. And before we get into that, this is a book. It's the biggest, it's the most successful book in the history of publishing, right? I mean, this book here, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think everybody's heard about it. Robert Kiyosaki in here talks about the richest people in the world are out there building their networks, all the while everyone else is trained to go look for work. The reality is if you've got a job, and not, ripping jobs, but if you've got to go down that path, God bless you, make the best of it. But keep in mind, when you've got a job, you're working on someone else's dreams rather than your own. And I'm going to just challenge you to forget that and start putting in place a plan where you can start taking control of your own destiny, right? And so, fascinating read there as well. And here we talked about the road to 6 figures in 6 months, okay? And how can I say this? Because, number one, we're already doing it. It's a proven business model. There are no sign-up fees here. There's no monthly qualifications, no inventory. Actually, we need to rephrase that. Very little paperwork on your end there. No deliveries. International business at your fingertips. 9 amazing streams of income. I just actually took you through 2 of them. By the way, if you're looking for cash flow, if you're looking for something that pays daily, that's exactly what we do here. And you know what? Going to the mailbox is now a completely different experience. The tax advantages and the team support are unlike anything I've ever seen out there. And here's the best part about it, you guys. You got a true ground floor opportunity, yet you do not have the risk. The reason is, in spite of the fact that less than 2% of North America has ever heard about this water, you got a 35-year-old vertically integrated Japanese company behind you that's just absolutely awesome. So you got a situation that comes along every 25, 30 years, if ever, okay? And that's something you definitely want, to take advantage of. And so at the end of the day, I mean, you know what? You've got the ability to live that dream. I think we all have that burning desire or a dream that we've kind of put on the back burner because we know deep down we don't have the right vehicle to fund that dream. And I'm here to tell you that regardless of what that dream is, we've got the vehicle to fund it, right? And we invite you to join us, become part of this mission. Even if you've got all the money in the world, once you start to experience this water, you're going to find yourself wanting to tell everybody about it. And again, our end goal here, you guys, is to literally change the landscape of healthcare, not just in this country, but around the world, and we'd love to have you part of that campaign. So that being said, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us on this evening's webinar. Say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know it's Sunday evening especially, so thanks again. We are officially at a wrap. You guys have a great evening. Good night. God bless.